each of the candidates, and for you as a forum attendee to provide feedback about the candidates to the Board of Regents. The format will begin with comments by the candidate, followed by questions from the audience. So that both the candidate and the rest of the audience can clearly understand the question, we ask that you use either the stand mic in the center of the auditorium, or if you're in a area of the auditorium that's not easily accessible, if you'll raise your hand and a hand mic will be brought to you. As you entered the auditorium, you were given a form that we would like for you to provide written feedback about the assessment of today's discussion. You may turn it in at the door at the conclusion of the forum, and then forward it to me later at one of the methods listed at the bottom of that sheet. And now to introduce our candidate. Dr. Gary A. Ransdell is a native of Louisville. He received both the Bachelor of Arts and Master of Public Service degrees from Western Kentucky University and the Doctorate in Education from Indiana University. Dr. Ransdell's entire career has been in service to higher education, beginning with 2 years as a field representative in Western's Office of University School Relations, which in the mid-70s was the office responsible for student recruitment. He served as a program evaluator and placement counselor at Indiana University before returning to Western as Associate Director of Alumni Affairs, a position that he held for 3 years. From 1981 to 1987, Dr. Ransdell served as Director of Alumni Relations and Executive Director of the Alumni Association at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. In 1987, he was appointed Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Clemson University, with responsibilities increased in 1995 to Vice President for Administration and Advancement. In his current position, he leads a staff of 765 and is responsible for the areas of alumni relations, development, public affairs, conference and visitor programs, human resources, environmental health and safety, and campus-wide facilities maintenance and operations. He is currently directing Clemson's capital campaign, which has a preliminary goal of $200 million. Dr. Ransdell lives in Clemson, South Carolina, with his wife Julie and their 2 high school-aged sons. Mrs. Ransdell has indicated that she would be willing to field questions from the audience during that portion of the program. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Gary Ransdell.
It really is a treat to be introduced by Frida. We started together in the University School Relations office in 1974, I guess it was, and we both had our initial experiences at Western and in this career of higher education together, and a lot of fond memories of the many tours we led across this campus. I've been impressed with the Spirit Masters. Carl, you've done a good job keeping that program going. I remember when that was started when Dr. Zacharias was president. You were involved at that point, and it's good to know you're still with it. They do a great job. This has been a special day. I've seen many great friends. I've had a chance to visit with some of them, and others I see in the audience here that I hope I get a chance to visit with before the day is out. Great memories. Hopefully we will make many more friends and memories in the years to come. I have been asked to prepare remarks which suggest my views on matters important to faculty and staff. This is the fun part of the process. I can't think of anything I'd rather talk about more. If you think of a university as being alive. And if you can have that analogy, then the faculty are the heart and soul and mind of the campus. Students are the lifeblood, and administration and staff are the fuel and energy. None can exist without the other, and we must vigorously nurture all 3 viable entities. Each is essential to a productive university, and we all work to ensure an optimum learning environment. To the faculty, my expectations as president would be that you would teach, and teach with passion. That's why we're all here, Everything else falls in line behind that. I would hope that you would remain open and receptive to new technology and ensure classroom application, that you would balance commitment to discipline with commitment to Western, that you would engage in basic research to search for new knowledge and conduct applied research when possible and certainly when needed to enhance specific teaching capacities, but also to foster economic development and enhance the quality of life for all of us. I would hope you'd understand administrative and external affairs, just as administrators must understand the academic process. Focus on ethics across the curriculum. Enhance verbal and written and technical skills among students. And most importantly, keep the curriculum relevant and stimulating. This is your domain. I know you've done it well historically. I know you can do it in the future. As president, I would work with faculty to prescribe a program for the life of the mind and the development of the total being. And that's been a recurring theme in our discussions this morning. And use that program to improve our collective lives. Our challenge is not to stuff students with knowledge, rather it is to stretch them with knowledge. Engage students in active learning. Students deserve a rich and flexible curriculum, personal attention from faculty and staff, and extensive involvement in campus and community life. Faculty must be able to rely on the staff to provide resources, visibility, proper facilities, and an environment conducive to learning. It is the staff which provides the day-to-day attention to this place and its people and ensures that all who come here have a good experience, whether it be for an hour, a day, a semester, or a career. We, the administration and staff, facilitate. We make sure you have the public and private resources for you, the faculty, to be effective. In the next few minutes, I want to touch specifically on 10 points, which if I were on the other side of the podium, and I've been there on several occasions in my career, I would want to know about a candidate for president of my university. First, academic governance. The president should always be mindful of the balance between running an institution in a business-like manner and being sensitive to the two fundamental conditions which separate higher education from a business: academic freedom and shared governance. Although the president of Western is the chair of the faculty, the vice president for academic affairs is the primary academic officer and must have related authority. The academic vice president in turn empowers the faculty. The president is accountable for the faculty and to the board. However, the board and the president rarely make academic judgments. The president conveys faculty views to the board and informs the faculty of the board's views, but expects the faculty to be self-governed. Teaching and curriculum and tenure are the responsibility of the faculty. They should be given considerable autonomy to govern themselves, but accountability rests with the board and the president. I would work most closely with Dr. Birch while being attentive to any faculty concern. I would seek faculty input in administrative matters, but knowing that those who are accountable must also have and accept the authority. I favor an executive committee of the Faculty Senate for expedient and efficient issue resolution and debate. A representative nucleus is more likely to facilitate productive communication and action, although I would welcome the opportunity to attend any meeting of any formal or informal faculty group. I value my interaction with the brightest people in our society. I also know that faculty appreciate prompt issue resolution. You meet faculty issues head-on in an open and forthright manner, find common ground, and move forward together. In matters of evaluation of faculty performance, I have found that a well-conceived peer review process should balance the administrative judgment of a department head, a dean, or academic vice president, but I would defer to the academic vice president on such matters, as I would the vice president of any of the other divisions when evaluation of staff in their respective areas is required. Secondly, let me address research for a moment. Since leaving Western, I've worked closely with faculty at a major private liberal arts university, Southern Methodist University, and faculty at a major land-grant research university, Clemson University. Western's mission is different from both, but my experience at both will help Western. At Western, I would generally use the word scholarship when describing our research efforts. We should balance basic research to glean new knowledge to enhance teaching with applied research to serve specific tasks. Sponsored research must take place to improve our curriculum, enhance our financial capacity, and foster economic development for our area of the state. We should take our lead from the governor's plan and emphasize those things in faculty and student and administrative performance which are manifested in successful penetration of the 6 new strategic investment and incentive funds outlined in the Post-Secondary Education Improvement Act. I'm impressed with the ratio of research proposals funded to proposals submitted, 92%, 255 out of 277 for $13.3 million. I understand many of them are state grants, and that's okay. My main question would be, with a success rate of 92%, why only 277 submitted with 541 faculty? Let me address the liberal arts for a second. I've listened to the governor's comments about the importance of the liberal arts vis-a-vis the importance of specific programs to serve this state and today's society. Without getting into specific disciplines in any of the colleges, of which there are many good ones, and some of which we will achieve in national prominence, I want to express the value I place on the liberal arts. Western has quality in its liberal arts curricula. They are a strength at Western. They were a strength when I was a student. And they can strengthen curricula across the colleges. Such courses make specific programs stronger. They liberate young people from ignorance and intolerance, and they create leaders. Regardless of a student's major, a few core liberal arts courses encourage enlightened personal expression, love of reading, creative discipline in writing, and active listening, respect of values, compassion, and tolerance. They create respect for problem solving and critical thinking, and application of logic and reason. And they foster an appreciation of different cultures. Let me mention tenure. While tenure is an issue in some states and on some campuses, this is not an issue with me. Academic freedom is essential. There are reasons why this nation has spawned the best teachers and best researchers in the world. Tenure is one of those reasons. It is not, however, an early retirement program, nor is it a license to offer negative public comment on matters outside a faculty member's academic area. Technology. The objective of technology is to increase our capacity to learn, increase speed and accuracy of information, decrease paper, and decrease administrative infrastructure. Technology should make Western a more productive, more competitive, more accessible institution. Technology is an instrument to fulfill mission. We should optimize technology without losing personal values, understand rapid changes, and use them in ways to enhance our character and mission as a university, not to overwhelm or divert our focus. Our challenge is to optimize the electronic age and create a value-added Western experience. The Chaucer professor who uses the internet to gather information from colleagues in England has made himself or herself a better professor. Faculty need to be assured that a CD might replace a specific lecture, but it will never replace the art of teaching. It will never connect human ideas or ideals. The virtual campus is a reality and a means to a degree for a growing number of students, but those who seek the total Western experience will have a campus and a faculty to which they can relate. Distance learning. Distance learning is for serious students who have a purpose. I'm not certain of Western's capacity, although I've learned more from talking with Dr. Anderson today. I'm not fully certain of our capacity for live or taped or internet transmission, or our ability to fully deliver at a time and place fully convenient to the student. But I'm impressed with what I've been able to learn thus far about successful programs in Glasgow and Owensboro, Fort Knox, Russellville, Elizabethtown, perhaps other locations. My experience suggests that it is best to offer degrees, not just courses. I understand we now have at least 2 degree programs through distance learning with plans for more. This is especially important at the master's degree level. Distance learning is also an area where significant opportunities exist to collaborate with other campuses. Concerns, however, with electronic education are that the student often misses the out-of-classroom development, the Western experience, the campus family. Universities may not always be able to compete with private providers, and experiential learning is difficult to achieve in the confines of one's own home, office, or satellite classroom. Budget. My philosophy is to ensure that our administrative operations are run in a business-like manner so that we may afford the inefficiencies of the classroom, the lab, or the library. There's nothing efficient about a chemistry lab. It costs money. It's expensive to keep a library current with new journals and electronic linkages. We will hold campus units accountable for budget performance. A university is not for profit, but it shouldn't be for deficit either. My financial priorities will be for things that positively affect learning and that add value to the Western experience for students, faculty, staff, and constituents. Western's budget is $124 million. 43% of that comes from the state. State appropriations are holding steady but declining slightly as a percent of the university budget. Western gets 2/3 of its budget, 67%, from the state and from tuition and fees. Academic programs appear to be receiving about $63 million, or 52% of the total budget. Our challenge is to ensure value for cost, value intellectually, and value from a total experience perspective. Among my primary responsibilities would be to increase the $53 million we get from the state, avoid significant increases in the $30 million we get from students, dramatically increase what we need from private sources, and ensure that all is spent in strategically sound and efficient ways. You say a word about diversity. Western's African American enrollment and faculty and staff appointments are lean. We must have the desire to solve the problem and the commitment of attitude and resources to empower people and programs to change. Diversity is no longer a noble goal. It's a vital requirement for a university. We should assess raw numbers and define strategic opportunities. Free admission programs have worked well on other campuses. That's something that Western needs to focus more on. Endowment. Western is more reliant on tax dollars and tuition because its savings account is much smaller than its ambition might require. Investment goals and investment policy need close scrutiny. I've not been able to determine what the institution's endowment income spending policy might be. First, however, we have to generate assets of greater significance before these matters are of consequence. Time and money are great partners. When it comes to endowments, a university must have a vision for decades, not years. Endowment is permanent, forever. It's one of the elements which makes universities unique in our society, which make them permanent. There are 62 social institutions in the Western world which have existed in continuous operation since the year 1500. 2 of those are governments, England and Sweden. 2 of them are churches, Lutheran and Roman Catholic. The other 58 are colleges and universities. An endowment is one common variable among those 58. And among those colleges and universities in this nation which have achieved national or international acclaim. Finally, you may want to know a little bit more about me. Some of you had me in undergraduate and graduate classes some 25 years ago, and I recognize some of you, and I learned much from you. And I had the pleasure of working with many of you during my 2 previous appointments at Western, and I learned much from you as well. But I have picked up a few things since we last met. I'm a transformational person who tends to look ahead. I'm more interested in shaping the future than recreating the past, although I value meaningful traditions, especially at this institution. A personal touch is important. I try to blend genuine interest with empowerment. I'm easy to approach. I'm opportunistic, generally enthusiastic, almost always optimistic, and energetic even on bad days. I try to maintain a good sense of humor, and I will make tough decisions. I'm a fiscal conservative. I trust my instincts, do my homework, and seek good counsel. I believe in surrounding myself with people who can do their jobs exceedingly well. It is my job to work hard to keep an informed and inspired team moving forward. I give people autonomy and authority and encourage them to take the initiative. Together we are accountable and generally successful. I also try to be brief whenever possible. So let me wrap this up, open it up to questions, and I'd be happy, either Julie or I would be happy to respond to anything that might be on your mind. This is an important process, and I commend the Board of Regents for the direct supervision they've given to this process, for their direct participation over the last several months. I've enjoyed our dialogue thus far, and I look forward to responding to things that may be on your mind and to returning home. Thank you. How you want to do this? You need sunglasses?
Dr. Ransdell, thank you for your comments. I was particularly interested in what you said about diversity at Western, but there's another dimension I'm interested in, and that's the international dimension. We have a very strong enrollment of students generally, but not so much of students from foreign countries. I believe we have less than 200 each year in total. Of course, I know this is largely a matter of money, but do you have any ideas for making our campus more international?
First, I would need to explore those disciplines that lend themselves to a global experience. I've learned a bit about some of the international programs that are not just germane to Western, but also our collaborative efforts with other campuses. Our earlier session with the focus group, we talked about some of those. I value an international experience. It's a small globe that we find ourselves on, and employers will expect our graduates to have an international perspective. Foreign lands and foreign countries and foreign cultures don't need to be foreign at all. They need to be familiar for our students and for our faculty. And you're right, it's largely a function of money. I'm sure we have the mind and the intellect in this room that can create handsome international and global experiences if we had the resources to facilitate them. But I would welcome the opportunity to explore ways to try to identify those resources, whether they be internal or new sources to the institution. But I would consider an international experience for as many students as possible to be important to having a total Western experience. And for faculty, for that matter, it enables our faculty, when you do have the opportunity to engage in other cultures and other lands, to be a more effective teacher. So I don't have a roadmap that we can pursue without getting more familiar with what our various disciplines might currently entail, and then create those opportunities. But I understand the importance of it. I don't remember you being this shy. What else?
One of the challenges that we're going to face undoubtedly in the future, as we already have in the past, is defining a mission for this institution that's distinctive to Western, that carves out a niche for us among the 8 public universities in Kentucky, or beyond for that matter. Have you given any thought yet to what you might see as a distinctive mission and place and role for Western in the higher education system of the state?
Well, I've read the mission statement that's in the catalog, and it's rather generic. I don't know that it is dramatically, distinctively Western. And I do know that after reading the Post-Secondary Education Improvement Act, that the Council on Post-Secondary Education is going to want to review our mission and the mission of the other institutions in this state. So I think the first thing we need to do early in the first year, or certainly during the first year, following a period of listening and observing, we're going to need to take the primary planning elements that are currently at work. The Western 21 Strategic Plan from 1991, that I don't know if it's still up to date or not. It does list essential and desirable programs. Take the new level plan, identify those core elements. and use the institutional review, which the board has just commissioned, as a means to shape those two documents, the New Level Plan and the Western 21 Plan. We simply have to add specificity, specific actions to bring about desired outcomes, timelines, and parties responsible and accountable for bringing about those actions. And once that process runs its course, we'll have a better definition of what our mission needs to be, because by that time we have had extensive communication with the new Council on Post-Secondary Education and created a meaningful presence in Frankfort, which that window of opportunity is still open with the biennial session coming up. So all those elements, the higher ed plan in the state, the Western 21 plan, the New Level Plan, and the institutional review will largely determine how we shape that mission to be relevant and timely. Western does not have a vision statement that I can find, and I would be interested in shaping a vision statement, working with the faculty and staff and the board to determine what is our vision and how we're going to achieve that vision through an updated version of those plans that I just mentioned. And that's an important process that has to take place in the first year. So I wouldn't suggest to you that I can sit here and recite what our mission needs to be, because I've not met with the Council on Post-Secondary Education. I've not met with you. That's something we would do collectively, but would need to be done early on. But I do think whatever it is, you use the right word, it does need to be distinctively Western. It needs to allow us to protect those core strengths as the Council on Post-Secondary Education begins to look at duplication, and allows us to define those priorities for which we will pursue national recognition. We can achieve national recognition without losing sight of our statewide mission. The two have to be blended.
You were quoted in last night's Daily News along similar lines. You're talking about the Board of Regents being poised to make the necessary adjustments that would thrust Western forward into national recognition or something like that. Could you elaborate more? I know the article did go on to talk about some of that, but give us some of these details on what specific adjustments the Board of Regents would need to make and the university would need to make in order to achieve that.
Well, I believe I'd have to specifically talk with the board about that first. My instinct is, and my observation is that we have a strong board who does have a higher vision for this institution and does have an intention on this institution growing and maturing and achieving its full potential. And I think there is an aspiration for more than a regional institution in the mind of our board. We have not talked specifics. We may talk about them in about an hour, I don't know. But I expect in due course that will be an important discussion to have with our board. But I would envision that we would achieve national recognition for the quality of teaching on this campus and for strength in selected programs. What those programs might be would be defined in the planning documents that I just described. We would have a statewide, develop and earn a statewide reputation for a strong faculty, warm faculty-student relationships, and a campus of character, and maintaining those historically strong programs that we've been able to sustain in the past. I mentioned the liberal arts, but also communications, our business curricula, some of our life sciences, education. And I would expect us to achieve a regional vision of strong research and public service in support of economic development and quality of life. All the while enhancing what I refer to as the Western experience for faculty, staff, students, community residents, alumni, anyone who interacts with this campus with any frequency. And I do have some things in mind that can enhance that total experience. But in terms of being specific and trying to anticipate what the board may have in mind in terms of those core programs that we need to pursue national prominence through, I think it would be a bit presumptuous for me to start speculating on what those might be, and I've not been able to do enough due diligence myself or communicate with you in that regard. Together we'll shape what those programs are. Who else?
Gary, I'm sure you've learned a number of things being at 3 institutions, 2 rather large and ours in the mid-level.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of lessons do you bring to the campus after such a long absence? And what kind of lessons did you take from the campus with you while you were gone?
Well, I took a lot of lessons with me. I was fortunate, as many of us have been, to grow up observing and learning from some awfully good presidents of this institution over the years, and observing the way Kelly Thompson brought the strength of physical plant, strength of public affairs, and value to the total experience, and D. Rowe Downing with care of campus and the meaning of passion for this place. Dr. Zacharias with the importance of exposing yourself to higher education and bring those experiences to bear on this campus. And all three helped shape how I would pursue my career when I left Western in 1981. But I left with the intention of growing, becoming exposed to the best in higher education, and I've been fortunate to have done that at two good institutions. I've been part of transformational decisions at both institutions, principally at Clemson University for the last nearly 11 years. And my experience, my roots here have served me well in making sound decisions, making difficult decisions, but being part of a transformation of a major land-grant university, especially in the last few years in accepting new responsibilities. Four things at Clemson that I would consider to be transformational that I've played a lead role in. Obviously, our fundraising, we've taken that endowment from $22 million to $158 million in 10 years. We've conducted one capital campaign of over $100 million, and we're in our second one. 1 year into the quiet phase, and we're at $62 million. It'll be a goal of $250 million. Academic support has grown from $6.8 million to $28 million in that period of time on an annual basis. Was part of our reorganization. Frida mentioned somewhat, but I accepted a lot of new responsibilities. After the reorganization, we went from 7 to 4 vice presidents. We ended up with a vice president for academic affairs, student affairs, agriculture, and public service as part of our land-grant mission, and I had everything else. I had all the administrative functions. Following several years of significant budget cuts, we were able to stabilize the budget, create a reserve fund. We went through a major reallocation of resources from administrative to academic priorities, some $6 million that we devoted to information technology, the library, classroom enhancements, and more modestly to admissions and recruiting. We have solved a lot of problems in our facilities area and directed about $1 million in that budget from administrative overhead in that department to deferred maintenance priorities. Most of these are recurring funds. In the time that I've been at Clemson, we have built 10 buildings, each of which bears the name of the principal benefactor to that building. For the first time, we built a building that combined private and public support. That's with a policy of 25% of construction costs in order for the name of a benefactor to be on a building. 3 engineering buildings, a performing arts building, a new student center, conference, continuing education center. We're just starting a campus hotel, a geological museum, and a visitor center. That's helped transform that campus, combining public and private support. And we have also built an additional 3 buildings without private support through bond bills that I was responsible for getting through the General Assembly. Fourth thing I would mention is a change in the freshman class profile, increasing our minority enrollment in the freshman class from 5 to 10%, increasing the average SAT score from about 1030 to 1140 over the last 6 or 7 years by creating a scholarship program supported primarily through the Coca-Cola Foundation in Atlanta, the Coca-Cola Clemson Scholars, a little bit commercial, but $3 million made it worthwhile. We offer 2 scholarships to every public high school in South Carolina, one to the highest ranked student of diversity at the end of the junior year, and one to the highest ranked student of majority status in that school, whichever the case may be. And we're running at about 60% yield ratio of those scholarship offers, and it's a $2,500 scholarship. So that program has helped transform the quality of the freshman class and the quantity in terms of demographic objectives. And that's something we'd want to take a look at, probably take a year or 2 to get to that, but there are some demographic targets of opportunity that we need to explore here. So I don't know if that answers your question, but my experiences here have served me well in those capacities, and those capacities will serve me well to come back here and apply them. I left for a purpose, and now's the time to apply that purpose.
Gary,
Yes, sir.
you've mentioned increasing private funding support. We have not been as aggressive in that area here at this university for, well, since we've begun. What are some of the cultural changes that will have to occur here for us to be successful in this area?
First of all, our constituency and our faculty have to understand that we can be ambitious and successful. Our constituency has to learn the difference between an annual gift and a capital gift. Annual gift coming primarily from annual income, capital gift primarily coming from capital assets. And there's a significant difference. We have to put some fundamental development capacities in place to learn more about our constituency, learn who among our constituency has the capacity to make a capital gift, cultivate those individuals until inclination reaches a level of capability, and that's when you deliver a well-thought-out proposal that involves extensive faculty participation to ensure that it has the quality that will inspire a donor to make a capital gift. And we will do that. We need to be far more aggressive in the corporate sector. An area near and dear to you, planned giving, needs to receive more emphasis. All these things will happen in time. Early in the first year, we would need to assess strengths and weaknesses to enable us to be in a position to conduct a capital campaign sometime in the first few years of the next administration. Western has been getting ready for a long time. 91 years we've been cultivating a constituency, and perhaps reciprocity is due. Yes, ma'am. Need a microphone.
I'm going back to the mission statement. Do you feel that the Community College of Western Kentucky University should be included in the mission of Western, or perhaps looked at as overlapping or as a separate entity to Western?
You're trying to draw me into that called legislative session debate, aren't you? I feel it should be it's a part of Western's history. It's a part of what we need to be. I understand that there's some effort to assess the value of separating associate degree programs from the core curriculum with the university. Dr. Birch and I had a brief discussion about that this morning. That's not as easy as it sounds. I understand that. I understand also there's some effort to perhaps move the community college to the Nashville Road location. With the property that's being developed out there. That sounds expensive. I don't know what the context of that piece of land and that building, that structure, former shopping mall, I don't know what it entails. I do know that was a priority for President Meredith. So to what extent do we separate the community college from the campus proper? I can't answer that until getting in and working with the academic side of the house to determine what needs to be done there. But I do know that it was an objective of the previous administration to try to separate those programs and move the community college to that off-campus location, and primarily bring students who may not have the academic strength to be admitted under increasingly selective admissions criteria as part of the new level plan. That's a way for them to enter the Western experience, achieve some degree of education before merging in with the mainstream of the student body. So I can't specifically say what should be done until I know the pros and cons of what could be done, and then we would pursue the best decisions and would certainly respect Dr. Birch's already extensive efforts in that regard.
I appreciate your thoughts on academic freedom and on tenure, and also your willingness to work with the Faculty Senate. But I'd like to ask you about something else that seems to be rearing its head across the country in many state capitals, and that is the issue of post-tenure review. I'm wondering if that has come up at all in South Carolina or at Clemson, and maybe some thoughts about that, since it seems to be an upcoming issue across the country.
It has not been an issue in South Carolina. Tenure itself has been a modest issue. Workloads and other kinds of factors, our legislature seems awfully interested in a world that they really have little exposure and little experience, and we're constantly challenged to be sure they understand the complexities of a teaching institution, a teaching and research institution. Post-tenure review, I would suggest, is an important process. Some faculty members earn tenure, and they do earn tenure at a fairly early stage in their career. Some more aggressively and some more early than others, of course. But tenure does not mean we rest. We need to continue to pursue new knowledge, continue to enhance our teaching capacities, and post-tenure review at an appropriate frequency, and that might be dependent upon the institution and the mission of that institution. But I would suggest that post-tenure review is an important process that needs to take place at an appropriate interval in the life of a faculty member in order to ensure that optimum productivity and enthusiasm continues to manifest itself in the classroom. What else?
Dr. Ransdell,
Yes, ma'am.
as members of the staff here at Western, we have seen members of our group privatized over the years and feel that that has weakened the morale on campus, and we also feel that no group is safe from that. Could you give us your views on privatization?
Certainly. Certainly. I actually have a good bit of experience both ways with privatization. That was a charge that I was given to assess our operations at Clemson University in 1994 and determine which ones needed to be privatized and which ones need not be privatized. And I've developed a formula. It's not copyrighted, so you can use it anytime you want. But I've developed a formula for how to approach that. First of all, people are our most important resource. And we have to sustain an esprit de corps and an enthusiasm for this place, and that results from passion and compassion for our employee and our workforce. However, given that, when we look at those administrative operations that must be performed in order to meet the needs of our faculty and our students, many times we have to assess operations that might fall within our core capacity as an institution. There are things that we as a university can do very well that need to be done. There are things that we may not do so very well, but are still essential in order to meet the needs of faculty and students. And when you identify administrative programs that might lend themselves to collaboration with the private sector, there's a test you have to run. First of all, you have to determine the financial capacity of that program. Can you minimize your losses? Can you cut your losses? Can you turn a negative cash flow situation into a positive cash flow? Can you enhance your revenues? Can you make more money? The financial consideration is significant in the equation. Secondly, can you improve the quality of service for students, for faculty, or whoever might be the beneficiary of that program? Thirdly, can you reduce the risk from the institution? Many of our administrative operations have some risk for the institution, financial and otherwise. Can we reduce that? And fourth, can we reduce the infrastructure, the cost, the overhead, the cost of operation, and redirect those resources to academic priorities? Once you run that four-way test, if you've improved your financial profile, if you've improved your service, if you've reduced your risk and reduced your infrastructure and can translate real dollars into reallocation to academic priorities, then you have to run the most important test. And the most important test is, does privatizing that operation affect your culture, your values, your traditions, your history, things meaningful that make that campus special? Few campuses have unique things that cause students to have a special experience, or faculty, or those of us who live here, when they're part of that campus. You can't diminish those. If privatization does that, you don't need to do it even if the first four come about. But if you can achieve the first four without affecting the Western experience, your culture and your traditions and values, then it becomes a pretty easy decision to make. And it will be a decision that's made collectively. And then you open it up to the private sector, allow the private sector to compete for that opportunity, and take those concepts that are in the best interest of the university, and everybody wins. I'm familiar with some of the privatization that's occurred here. I'm familiar with your food service operation. I'm familiar with your transition from Marriott to Aramark. I know Aramark well. I have extensive experience with them. I would have some challenges for them should I come. I also know some of the problems you have with Marriott. I'm familiar with what you've done in the bookstore to keep that internal and to devote some resources and improve the quality and enhance the service. Obviously, somebody ran some semblance of a four-way test, sounds like a Rotary speech, doesn't it, of a four-way test to the bookstore, and found that you're better off doing it yourself. And that may have been the perfect decision. I know what you've done in facilities. Frankly, we've implemented a similar model at Clemson about 6 months after Western did. We approached it a lot differently, though. The word Marriott is never mentioned on our campus. It's not in our vocabulary. That chief facilities officer may be a Marriott employee, but he reports to me, and he's a key member of our team, and he is a officer of the institution, a part of the Clemson family, and he makes decisions accordingly. That's a word that's just not relevant in our vocabulary, and the people come first. And we have ensured that those employees, now we made some tough decisions. We eliminated some positions to divert money to deferred maintenance, but that had nothing to do with Marriott. When we make a decision about something in our facilities area, Clemson makes that decision. Our chief facilities officer makes it, or I make it, or the president makes it, not Marriott. That's simply a Rolodex that sits on his desk and gives him the capacity to bring in significant resources when needed. And we've called on it often. We've gotten far more than our money's worth in that equation. And since that contract was let a year and a half ago, we've eliminated all campus chargebacks by facilities operations. We have diverted about $500,000 from our utilities budget back to the academic budget and energy efficiencies. We've changed our whole attitude of service from our facilities operation to faculty and students, and our situation is better now. And yeah, we went through the grumblings of what's this going to mean, and people threatened by that concept, but it's a matter of how you handle it and how you make those people part of the family. Because if you don't, it's never going to work. And it may not be working here. I really don't know. I've not analyzed it here. It may or may not be how we need to go in the future, but it's something that I would work with the appropriate individuals to assess and make that determination. Does that help?
Gary, appreciate your comments this afternoon, but I certainly want to give your wife an opportunity to respond.
Good.
So I would just simply like to ask how you would define your role as First Lady of this institution if, in fact, you were to be here in that role.
Well, Gary and I have been a team for an awful lot of years, and we've worked well with alumni, and I think that would be one of my roles, is to go out and meet alumni, a lot of whom we already know. Development is another important thing. I know how to entertain. We've raised a lot of money for Clemson University, and I believe that we can do the same thing here. You've got to get the corporate people in here. You've got to work with them. You have to work with people that have graduated from here. They need to give back to their alma mater. And I think that we can entertain them and show them that they need to do that. And one of the most fun things I think that either one of us could do would be to interact with students, have student groups over to the house, attend their functions here on campus, and just be part of their life as they will be part of our life. And we're easy to get along with, and it would be enjoyable.
The President's Home is an important part of the Western experience, and I would assume that it's a place where students and faculty would be comfortable and come often.
Somewhat of a housekeeping question here. To what extent would differences between teaching load, faculty responsibilities, and possible salary inequities between colleges be of your concern?
Well, if there are inequities, they would be of concern. I'm sure that the Vice President for Academic Affairs and I would have those discussions, and I'm sure she's working hard, if inequities exist, to address those at this point in time. Teaching loads, I would have some expectations for teaching load of an adequate number of hours, but that might be germane to the discipline as well. I do know that the legislature will have expectations of teaching loads, whether it's been an issue in the past, it may be in the future. Inequities would be a concern, but having said that, I would emphasize that I expect our planning procedures will result in academic programs of priority in terms of future resource allocations. And now I would hope that those would be quality enhancements in the classroom that improve our teaching capacity and our research capacity in our laboratories if a science area is one of those priorities. But I don't know that increasing the salary, the compensation levels for faculty who fall in priority areas will be a way to strengthen that particular college. I don't see that as a critical criteria in achieving that national recognition that we would seek. Esprit de corps, collegiality is important on a college campus, and salaries is a good way to keep it or lose it. Anything else? Are we on time? We got a few more minutes. I would suggest, somebody asked earlier what the most difficult challenge for a president might be, and I shared this with the search committee and also I think with the focus group earlier, which some of you may have been in that session, but it's the fun part. The real challenge is satisfying the expectations of multiple stakeholders in the institution. That's a constant, eternal challenge for a president. The board expects progress, sound financial management, positive reinforcement, good communication, effective communication. Faculty expect a voice in the affairs of the institution, fair compensation, good facilities, academic freedom. Students expect protection, meaningful and active campus life. Most of them expect a strong curriculum. Alumni want a warm, charismatic, open leader who can ensure added value to the degree. Parents want safety. They want someone in whom they can entrust their son or daughter. All of them want impeccable character and winning athletic teams, and maybe not in that order. So it's a balancing act that I would welcome the opportunity to pursue, especially here. Thank you very much.
Just a reminder, you may turn in your form at the door, or if you will send it within the next few days, that would be appreciated.